In a moment that instantly shook fan timelines around the world, the spotlight suddenly turned to one major unanswered question. Why is V once again absent from crucial moments with Jungkook? And why is it Jin who now receives full support from the BTS magnate? In less than 24 hours, suspicions that HYBE is systematically distancing Kim Taehyung from Jungkook, then placing Jin as Jungkook's new emotional focus, spread massively across social media. Is this merely coincidence, or truly a deliberate strategy? And more importantly, why are ARMY suddenly expressing their anger so openly? It's worth noting that the public has long acknowledged the deep connection between Jungkook and V, iconic in name, relationship, and collective fandom memory. Yet in recent months, a repeating pattern has emerged. V appears to be subtly excluded from Jungkook's public moments. Promotional activities, rehearsals, even official BTS content featuring only select members have become small puzzle pieces that, when assembled, reveal something bigger. In the latest moment, Jungkook was clearly recorded cheering for Jin during a public session in which V was entirely absent. Rather than being considered normal, the moment further emphasized V's absence, which has repeatedly occurred without explanation. ARMY's response was swift and brutal. Protest hashtags spiked even before media outlets could form a headline. Suspicions no longer stayed within fan rivalries, but pointed directly at internal management structures. For most fans, this is no longer a matter of scheduling conflicts or individual busyness. This is a symbolic sidelining. When Jungkook is seen accompanying Jin in a highly visible interaction while V is nowhere to be found, the question is not just where is V, but why isn't V allowed to be there? These signals of tension didn't emerge out of nowhere. There is history. There is a track record. Fans have revealed that for several months now, V has not been involved in promotions with Jungkook, even in informal content. On the other hand, Jin has started to take over that space, seemingly being spotlighted as a new public companion to Jungkook. Speculation is growing that HYBE, slowly but deliberately, is trying to reshape the emotional narrative among BTS members by replacing certain figures to maintain internal narrative stability. Why Jin? Many see Jin as someone more manageable by the company. He is calmer, more senior, and seems less resistant to internal policies. In contrast, V is known for being more expressive and less willing to conform. In this context, the emotional bond between Jungkook and V may be viewed as a narrative disruption by certain elements within management. So if there really is an attempt to divert fan affection away from Taekook toward a more neutral pairing, Jin's involvement may not be Jungkook's decision, but part of a systematic directive. What's more concerning is the complete lack of transparency offered to the public. Even when fans began questioning V's pattern of absence and Jin's sudden emergence, no official channel provided clarification or even acknowledgement that an internal shift was taking place. Instead, the response was silence, a silence that only intensified suspicion. When the public loses access to explanations, all that remains is interpretation, and today's public interpretation is filled with frustration. ARMY's anger isn't just about V's absence from one or two pieces of content. This anger is the accumulation of long-standing disappointment over how the system seems to control not just activities, but also the personal relationships between members. Especially when fans notice that Jungkook's expression around Jin feels less authentic than when he's with V. This isn't an ordinary emotional comparison. It's a subtle signal read through body language, eye contact, and interactions that feel more formal than natural. Furthermore, many suspect that HYBE is reshaping BTS's public image by reorganizing the dynamics between its members on screen. Jungkook is now being positioned as a symbol of independence, yet ironically, he is trapped within a narrative controlled by the system. V is being phased out gradually, while Jin is used to fill a void that arguably no one else can truly replace. This is a silent maneuver whose impact is deeply felt by observant fans. Does Jungkook know that his current presence with Jin is being used as a narrative tool to erase V? Or does he simply have no choice but to follow a predetermined structure? And if that's the case, what does freedom really mean within BTS's intermember relationships? Do they still have the agency to define their internal dynamics, Or have they become narrative properties aligned with the industry's agenda? This article does not aim to blame any single party, but rather to open up the bigger questions long whispered within fan communities. Fans do not demand all members to appear in every moment, but what they are questioning is the pattern. When that pattern repeats and only targets one member consistently, then the argument of coincidence collapses. Jungkook may appear calm while supporting Jin, but the public knows that emotional expressions cannot be fabricated long-term. Tension will surface, and truth will eventually leak out through unscripted expressions. ARMY cannot be fooled by still images and controlled framing. They read between the lines. They connect the dots. And when those dots form a manipulative narrative, anger becomes inevitable. HYBE must respond. Not because they are accused, but because they are silent. And in this situation, silence equals consent. Silence confirms that the public's narrative may not be wrong. When an artist as prominent as Taehyung is slowly erased from the group's visual space and replaced with seemingly orchestrated interactions, trust becomes the first casualty. Without transparency, only speculation remains. And in the midst of speculation, ARMY stands as a guard that will not stay quiet when even one member appears to be quietly erased. The public isn't asking for drama. They're asking for honesty. And if the system continues to cover up the truth, they must prepare for a wave of anger far greater than they anticipate. In this increasingly heated situation, one big question emerges and demands an answer that can no longer be delayed. Are we truly witnessing a systematic conspiracy to remove V from BTS's collective narrative? Or is this merely a mass illusion built from visual interpretations and fans' collective emotions? Do the facts we see actually reflect reality? Or are they manipulated by an incomplete context? In a world where the line between perception and reality grows ever thinner, the public is challenged not to be passive consumers of information, but critical observers who refuse to be deceived by compelling visual narratives. Several viral contents circulating on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter show clips of Jungkook cheering on Jin in multiple instances. Under normal conditions, such interactions wouldn't be cause for uproar. But what triggered escalation was V's absence in those moments. An absence that is consistent, recurring, and systematic, prompting the question, why is it only Taehyung who is missing? Is this just a logistical coincidence? Or is there a hidden pattern deliberately shaped and maintained through a controlled narrative? Beyond that, some fans interpret this pattern as a symbolic erasure of V from BTS's emotional dynamic. The idea that Jin now acts as Jungkook's companion in many public moments is seen as a manufactured attempt to shift public focus from the Taehyung Jungkook Taehyung relationship to the Jungkook-Jin pairing, which appears more neutral and less controversial. But could this narrative be simply a product of collective assumptions amplified by social media algorithms? Are we truly in the middle of a conspiracy involving a giant agency like HYBE? Or is this just overanalysis from a fandom community emotionally attached to their idols? It's crucial to remember that not every piece of information circulating on social media stands on verified fact. Many viral clips are fragments of a more complex reality, twisted by specific points of view and amplified by potentially inaccurate narratives. If so, have we become victims of confirmation bias? Are we only seeking evidence to support our suspicions while ignoring other information that contradicts the story we've come to believe? There's no denying that ARMY's emotional investment in each BTS member runs deep, and that creates a space for interpretation vulnerable to manipulation. In this context, HYBE's role becomes the focal point, but it's worth questioning. Is HYBE truly orchestrating BTS's interpersonal dynamics to shift public narratives? Or is this all just a domino effect from promotional policies, marketing strategies, or content distribution needs that were never clearly explained to the public? If HYBE truly has a hidden plan to replace V's emotional place with Jin at Jungkook's side, then the question is, for whom is this narrative being shaped? What is the end goal? Is it to suppress sensitive issues that once dragged Taekook's relationship into damaging corporate speculation? Or do they believe Jin fits the safe image better for global public perception? However, if that suspicion is wrong, and HYBE has no systematic intent to erase V, then we face a darker truth. That baseless speculation, driven by emotional overload and collective assumption, can destroy credibility, fracture fan solidarity, and damage internal relationships that should be protected. So it is vital to ask, have we as the public gone too far in interpreting signs that may not even exist? From a standpoint of responsible journalism, we cannot fully verify the authenticity of claims spreading on social media. The current sources are video snippets from TikTok, Twitter screenshots, and speculative YouTube compilations. In other words, this is not the result of official investigation, but a form of public reaction to patterns seen on the surface. Which raises another question. Can a public reaction built on unverified sources be a legitimate basis for accusing an institution as large as HYBE of manipulating its group's personal relationships? If we accept such narratives without filtering their truth, then we are also reinforcing a culture of misinformation. Skepticism is needed, not to deny the possibility of manipulation, but to prevent us from falling into a trap of narratives formed purely by opinion. We must return to the core principle. All allegations must be backed by clear evidence, not just based on visual patterns or someone's absence on screen. In the Korean entertainment world, known for its secrecy over internal dynamics, the public rarely gains access to unfiltered information. So it's understandable that public interpretation is shaped not by objective facts, but by visual impressions, emotional affection, and the push of social opinion. However, that does not justify the assumptions that follow. Is it true that Jin is replacing V in the narrative of supporting Jungkook? Or is Jin merely fulfilling his role as a senior member currently promoting alongside the Magne? A critical reflection the public must undertake is to re-examine every belief formed from viral opinions. Do we really know what's happening behind the scenes? Or are we only seeing what is deliberately presented to us? And if that's the case, who controls that screen? HYBE? The media? Or are we the ones producing the narrative through a machine of collective opinion? This phenomenon also teaches us the importance of media literacy. In an era where anyone can edit videos, frame narratives, and build public opinion quickly, the ability to separate fact from interpretation is key. When a short video can be transformed into conspiracy proof by a provocative caption, the public is challenged not just to watch, but to ask, what's missing from this video? And who benefits from this narrative going viral? ARMY's anger is certainly based on something real and cannot be easily dismissed. But is it directed at the right issue? Is it possible we've been manipulated by a narrative that appears credible but is logically weak? Do we realize that sympathy for one side can become a destructive attack on another if not grounded in data and verification? We now stand at a crossroads. Do we want to be emotional fans or critical observers? Do we want to strengthen BTS's solidarity as a group that's weathered many crises together, or weaken their foundation by creating tension based on assumption? In the end, the public must dare to question itself. Do we truly believe that V is being sidelined by HYBE? Or do we simply want to believe that because it fits the narrative we've already embraced? Is Jungkook really being forced to support Jin for media strategy? Or is he merely showing support as part of a professional and emotional relationship between group members? This article does not conclude, because no final data exists as absolute evidence. What we offer is an invitation to readers. Do not passively accept information. In a world where opinions can become facts simply by going viral, the ability to doubt is our only defense against mass manipulation. So before we decide to be angry, disappointed, or accusatory, we must first ask, is this truly real or just a narrative we've created ourselves?